So hello guys, what's up and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's me, your girl barrister Neze, and this is Nezeville. In today's video, we will be covering the incredible and emotional story of Ephunanya Muokwa, the young Nigerian woman whose father's heartbreaking experience back home in Nigeria has shook up the internet. From family betrayal to cultural controversies, this story has plenty layers to it, and we are gonna break them down one by one. But before we do, if you're new here, you're seeing my face for the first time, or if you've been watching without subscribing, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Give this video a big thumbs up. Before we proceed, drop your comments down in the comments section. Very importantly, your comments, your thoughts, your perspectives, your experiences down in the comment section, and stay glued, for we have so much coming your way. Let us proceed. Ephunaya is a young, bright lady resident in the US with her family. Her father, Peter Muokwa, had spent a whopping 25 years working in the bustling city of New York. Having spent so many years of his life working in the hustle and bustle of such a busy city as New York, he surely longed for a peaceful and quiet place of retirement. Where else could be more appealing to a typical Igbo man more than his own hometown? And so as Mr. Peter Muokwa inched closer to retirement age, he began erecting a structure right in his village. And by the time he was retired, the building was ready and set for occupation. He left America and moved back to Anambra State, eastern part of Nigeria, in 2017. His daughter Ephunaya was present right there at the airport to bid him farewell and say goodbye. She would certainly miss him, but his wellness, the wellness of his mind, was also paramount to her. And so she bade him farewell and he left to Nigeria. Back in Nigeria, the communication between Mr. Peter and his daughter Ephunaya did not waver. They kept in touch and they stayed close. Oh, the relationship between an Igbo man and his Ada, his first daughter, oh God, nothing beats it, nothing matches it. So they kept communication open. But 4 years down the line, 4 years after Mr. Peter relocated back to his country in the year 2021, Ephunaya observed that the communication pattern was becoming more and more inconsistent. At first, she didn't pay no mind to it. She possibly felt that everybody could get busy sometimes. So she just saw it as, well, these things happen. Daddy's busy, I'm busy. Okay, it's all right. But she surely began to get worried for good reasons. For a period of 6 months, after that communication withered, she didn't hear from her father. She would call him, send voice notes, send him airtime and money, and there were no acknowledgements, no callbacks, nothing. You see, Ephunaya did not even need to send Mr. Peter money for him to have the resources to keep communication open. Mr. Peter, remember, we had mentioned that he had spent 25 years working in the New York City and he was pensionable. So he was receiving a total of $5,000 monthly in pensions and social security. So what was the problem? Why wasn't he calling? Why wasn't he returning the calls? And why wasn't he replying his messages? Ife's concern grew by the moment. The structure that Mr. Peter had erected in the village was located in a family compound, and that home was easily accessible by Peter's brother and his sister, that's Efunaya's aunt and uncle. So Ephunaya started calling her uncle and auntie, asking them real questions. Where is my daddy? Can you give him the phone? Can I talk to him? Can I see him? And they were so full of excuses. Today it's he's sleeping. Tomorrow, oh, he just took a walk. Next tomorrow, I'm in the market. Don't worry, when I come back, I'll call you. endless excuses, yet she could not reach her father. It was getting mysterious. And so on this fateful day in 2022, Ify made a trip back to Nigeria for holidays to see her boyfriend who resided in Lagos and to see her father. She was getting unhappy and concerned about what seemed like her father's decision to cut her off. She wasn't a bad child. She hadn't done anything to offend him. Why wouldn't my father speak to me? And besides, she had begun having bad dreams about her father. Dreams where she would see her father tied at the corner of a room and crying. And so she decided that she was not just going to fold her arms and wait this out. She was going to go all the way to Anambra in search of her father. And so she did. And so Ephunaya hopped on a flight from Lagos State all the way to Anambra State. And then another 25 minutes drive to Enugu, her hometown. When Ify arrived at her father's compound, she was not met with a welcome that she maybe anticipated. She found this big heap of sand blocking and obstructing her father's gates. Nobody could go in and nobody could come out. A total obstruction. And as though that was not worrisome enough, she was met with a very hostile reception.
My uncle and my auntie saw me and began saying, "How dare you? I'm gonna kill you. You're a prostitute. You sleep in hotels."
And Auntie Joe have literally been throwing sand on her. See, you see this? You see this? You see this? You see this evil?
Now, in Igbo land, Ephunaya belongs to a group called the Umuadas, a very strong traditional socio-cultural institution in Igbo land. The term Umuada literally means daughters of a lineage, daughters of a kindred. So they are not wives or women married into a family or a community. They are daughters who were born into a lineage, born into an ancestry, regardless of where they live or where they are. Oh, they are a very strong, powerful, and significant part of the Igbo system, and they are always welcomed into their father's home. The Umuadas are very respected and play a pivotal role in enforcing respect and justice within the family and community. They step in where there is disrespect, injustice, domestic violence, or a compromise on women's rights. In fact, before the Western intrusion that came and watered down female traditional institutions, you see the Umuadas, not even the Umunas could try them, could see their backs. They are very reverenced and honored. And when they stamp their foot at an occasion, a funeral, a wedding, and they say that will not hold. My dear brother, my dear sister, please just go and settle with them, because you see that event, it will not hold. So, this is not digressing. In literature, this is called a story within a story. Because through these true life events, we get opportunities to learn in broader perspectives. So in essence, in Igbo culture, it is a taboo, an Aru abomination, to push out an Ada away from her father's compound or to stop her from accessing it. It is that serious that even her own children, called the Wadialas, culturally, back then in the olden days, could run back to their mother's place even after committing a crime, and they will be shielded by the mother's people. They could even walk into a farm and pick a fruit in their mother's place, and nobody's going to call them a thief. They are allowed to. So when Ephunaya returns to her father's house in search of him, instead of a warm welcome, she was met with hostilities by her father's brother, Francis, and her father's sister, Josephine. They physically blocked her and stopped her from gaining entrance into the house, and even began physically assaulting her, hitting her, baiting her with sand, verbally abusing her, calling her a prostitute, that she has been in a hotel. If she doesn't live here, they're going to kill her. How dare you? Waiting bring prostitutes into the home matter. So let us agree she's a prostitute, Don't prostitutes have a right to see their father? Okay, no, I agree. I am a prostitute, but I'm not here to market my merchandise. I am here to see my father. What has my profession got to do with it? They refused, and they were trying to remove her from the premises. A scene was created. Voices were raised, but Ephunaya stomped her foot down that she was not stepping out until she sees her father. At this point, members of the community and youths of the village had gathered, and they wanted to descend on this uncle and auntie because, as I told you, it is not just disrespect or illegal. It is an abomination, an arrow to lock out this Ada from accessing her father's compound. So the place began to get rowdy. The situation got to the hearing of the Onowu. Who is the Onowu? The Onowu is a very high-ranking traditional title holder in Igbo land. He is not the Igwe who serves as the overall community head. He is more like a spokesperson, a mouthpiece for the people or for the king, some sort of chief advisor or prime minister to the Igwe. And he plays several roles in the Igbo community, including the roles of mediator and peacemaker. So the Onowu was intimated of the chaos that was building at the Muokwa's compound. Ephunaya was not backing down. She was insisting that she was going to see her father. Villagers were gathering, confronting this auntie and uncle. Absolute disarray. And so the Onowu stepped in to calm the situation down. Knowing how fast such situation could go violent and de-escalate fast, he called in the police. When the police got to the venue, they asked Ephunaya, okay, you've been assaulted, you've been hitten and beaten and rough-handled. Follow us to the station. Would you want to make a statement? Would you want to press charges? Ephunaya was like, that is not my concern now. All I want is to see my father. These ones can be discussed later. At this point, this uncle and auntie started shouting that Mr. Peter, her father, is in Abuja. That is another city, another town entirely. More than 5 hours drive. That he's not in the compound, he's in Abuja. They called another uncle, another brother of this Mr. Peter, who resides in Abuja, Uncle Christopher by name. And they were like, Christopher, tell them that Peter is in Abuja. And this Mr. Christopher, another brother of Mr. Peter, affirmed that yes, my brother is with me here in Abuja. It's just that I'm not around. Don't worry, tomorrow we would call and you would talk to him. You can imagine how many family members were in on this whole thing. How many conspirators sharing the same flesh and blood were in on this evil. After that phone call and affirmation from Uncle Chris, the villagers were like, oh, it's okay. It's already running late. Let us go tomorrow. Since Uncle Chris has confirmed that Mr. Peter is there, let us go. Ephunanya became confused. True to it, it was getting dark. She didn't know what next to do. But just like an angel on earth, an elderly woman around the corner looked at her and whispered to her, lies. Your father is in that house. And so Ephunaya did a turnaround and said, okay, since we are here, yes, Uncle Chris has said he's in Abuja. Oh, that is fine. We don't doubt. But since we are here, right in the house, right in his house, let us just double check and confirm that he is not here. And so, accompanied by a policeman and the Enugu youth leader, Ephunaya went into the building to have a look. And what she saw, oh God, what she saw. When she stepped into the space where her father was kept, every inch of the room smelled like death. Her father laid half dead on the floor on a smelly mattress covered with rags, malnourished and dehydrated, hanging on the brink of death, unable to speak or move. His beds overgrown, his fingernails long as claws. His mouth was dried up, no saliva, bones frail and skin withering away. He was a ghost of his former self. When Ephunaya came down to break the news to the villagers of the condition at which she found her father, everybody was thrown into shock. They were like, they have been asking about Peter, but that uncle and auntie would say, he's in Abuja. He traveled back to Obodo. He's not in the country. It's one story after the other. Nobody had set their eyes on him for well over a year, and all along he had been locked up in a room in the house, cut off from the world and left on the floor to decay, to starve in anguish. Now, at this point, I was expecting this story to take a different turn. I personally would have preferred a more realistic approach to the situation. Mr. Peter was in a fragile, near-death situation. Every minute counted. I was expecting that instead of leaving him with the same people, the very same people who had tortured him and put him in that fragile state that he was found, I was expecting that he would have been rushed immediately to the hospital. And since there were policemen on ground, action would have been taken immediately, because leaving him overnight with those people could mean danger. What if they killed him to conceal their atrocities? Anything could have happened. But Ephunaya said that the Holy Spirit ministered to her not to remove her father from that place that night. So for the purpose of this narration, we will just respect her story and her spiritual intuition. So she left her father there and went back to her hotel in Awka. The very next day, Ephunanya and her auntie were invited by the police to come to the station and give their statements. And when the IPO, the investigating police officer, read both statements, the inconsistencies and the holes in her auntie's statement were so visible, she was arrested immediately. Her auntie was eventually released on bail, and both of them went to the Onowu's palace or house. Thankfully, the Onowu was an educated and well-traveled man, and he was shocked. He was like, this man receiving $5,000 monthly, left in such a deplorable state. He said that before any peace talk or any negotiations, let that auntie go and get the health card of Mr. Peter, the medical card, to see the kind of treatment he has been receiving through the years. Because 2 years ago, in December of 2020, Mr. Peter had suffered a stroke. So she was told to go get the medical card. She left and never came back, stopped taking calls. Her plan was to delay the whole process, get Ephunaya frustrated, and have her return back to America to continue her life. Ephunaya was thrown into a state of confusion. Her vacation time was over. Will she stay back in Nigeria and then lose her job and her life? Or will she abandon her father to die and go back to America? She didn't know what to do. She quickly reached out to her office, explained everything to them in the best way that she could, that they would understand. And alas, she was in luck. She was granted a 30-day paid extension, so she had enough time to stay back and save her father. When the health card was eventually found, it was on record that Mr. Peter, that suffered a stroke in December of 2020, last saw a doctor that December of 2020. So for 2 years, a stroke survivor did not see any doctor. No medical care, no medication, no checkup, no physiotherapy, nothing. Just abandoned on the floor to decay alive while his pensions were being taken and used. So at this point, the Onowu advised Ephunaya to make an official traditional plea to the Umunas to go and pay a visit to her father. Because remember, it was just Ephunaya, the policeman, and the youth leader that had seen him. So she made an official request for the Umunas to go and see for themselves what their brother is like. The Umunas are like a male version of the Umuadas. So they're referred to a patrilineal kindred group in a lineage. They are essentially an extended kindred of men with a common ancestral descent, a common male ancestor. And they are one of the most fundamental social units in traditional Igbo society. So the Umunas got ready, gathered themselves and went to Mr. Peter's house to see their brother. This same auntie and uncle refused the Umunas entrance into the place. They locked the gates, locked them out, and instead this auntie began insulting them.
The gate is locked. It's locked. The gate is locked. The gate is locked. The gate is locked. The gate is locked.
It's locked.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go.
Okay. Thank you. You've seen it. You've seen it.
Okay.
Since it was very late, they couldn't start going back and forth to the police station. What they decided to do was mobilize some youths. Ephunaya gave money for cartons of beer and hot drinks to be bought and distributed. And, they mobilized some youths that would lay wait at that compound. And they would take their shifts. This group would stay for some hours, go the next group. So those members of youths were there. Next thing they saw, gun-wielding soldiers drove right at the scene and told them to disappear or they were going to spray them and kill them all. And so Uncle Francis and Auntie Josephine sneaked out the body of Mr. Peter into this army's bus and they zoomed off. This was happening at about 4 a.m. in the wee hours of the morning. Ephunaya was called and informed. At this point, it now became a case of a full-blown kidnap, and the case was transferred from the nearby police station there in the village to the police headquarters in Oka. Ify immediately reached out to the US Embassy. Remember, her father is a US citizen, reporting that for 3 days, the whereabouts of her father had remained unknown. So the US Embassy started putting pressure on the police headquarters in Oka, and they began to act. After a few days, this uncle and auntie returned Mr. Peter back to the house. So maybe they took him somewhere. I do not know their plans, whether to brush him up and resuscitate him a little and make him a bit more presentable since their lead had been blown. Who knows? Long story short, he was brought back to the house. The police deployed men. Members of the youth were on ground, furious. Remember that this auntie and uncle had already called the army on them to shoot at them. So they were ready for anything. They were upset. Even when the police escorted Auntie Josephine back to the house and mandated her to open the door, she still refused to open the door, pretending as though she couldn't find the key.
Can we open this place?
She has the key.
The youth got a hammer and broke the key that led to the entrance of the house.
Whoa! Jack, Jesus is good. Covered by the blood of Jesus. Covered by the blood of Jesus.
When they got to the main house building, more padlocks. It was chaotic. Eventually, they had to get a ladder and climbed up from the balcony to gain entrance into the house and into the room where Mr. Peter was lying.
Daddy?
So he was first rushed to a local hospital there in Anambra State because he needed a fit to fly from a doctor before they start moving him out. Remember, he was very frail, he was weak, he was quarter to go.
Watch out for his head. Good. I'm here with you. Okay?
Bend his head.
Go to the back.
I will. But let me just watch him safely enter the car.
Even while Ify was in the hospital with her father, the threats kept on coming. Another of her uncle, this one lives in America, Uncle Ike by name, was sending threats to her father's best friend that was there with her at the hospital. In one of the threats, look at what he said. Emeka, this is Ike. I don't want anyone getting you into a legal mess. I have a power of attorney over my brother Peter, and I will exercise it to the fullest. Someone should have advised you of that. Everything has to go through me and has to be approved with appropriate accommodation, including visits, because of prior incidents of the daughter trying to take him out of the country. Imagine that. Even after the man was found in a near-death situation, the brother was still bragging and trying to exercise right over the man, a man that has a family and grown-up children. Igbo culture. Igbo culture. But Ephunaya stood defiant, resisting her uncle's intimidation. Knowing that she was still in that vicinity in the east, she was filled with apprehension and all sorts of imagination, but she gave herself courage, depending on the protection of the Holy Spirit. She summoned courage to go back to her father's house because she needed his travel documents. When she finally got hold of his international passports, she found that his American passport was expired, but at least the Nigerian international passport was still valid. After 9 whole days at the hospital, living in fear, watching over her shoulders, sleeping on a little chair, her feet swollen, the doctor in Oka eventually issued the fit to fly, and so they left Oka to Lagos State.
Okay.
Perfect. Perfect.
It will interest you to know that when Ephunanya went back to her father's compound, she observed and saw where all her father's money were being channeled to. Right at the corner of the mansion that he had built, there in the family compound, was a building project presently under construction. So these siblings were using this man's money to erect a mansion for themselves while they left him to suffer and decay. You needed to see the amount of debris and dirt coming out from the skin of Mr. Peter when Ephunanya gave him his first clean. It was as though he hadn't bathed in years. So there in Lagos, Ephunanya was in constant communication with the US Embassy. Oh, they were excellent and swift. They came to the hospital to capture Mr. Peter's biometrics and issued him a new US passport within 24 hours. They also asked her if she needed help with getting a new power of attorney that would give her authority to act in her father's stead, overriding the previous one that his brother claimed to have gotten. And they did help her get that. Will you believe, as though their atrocities were not enough, Ephunanya's auntie and uncle sued her in court for enforcement of their fundamental human rights, calling Ephunanya a gold digger. God, a man's child is his gold digger. Who should dig his gold? You, the sibling. Oh God, sense is far from some people. Calling her a gold digger, that she wants to eat her father's money, she wants to take him abroad and put him in old people's home, that he's receiving care back in the village, but Ephunanya has disrupted his life. Man, when I went through the court documents, I was like, hey, audacity, where are you sold? Hey, jeez. Well, after everything, all the hell that she passed through because she had to go back to Enugu from Lagos. She left her father with a relative that was taking care of him and had to fly back to Anambra State rather to start the running around of court, appearing in court and all of that, filing, getting a lawyer and all of that. And then she returned back to Lagos. Eventually, the hospital in Lagos issued Mr. Peter a fit to fly certificate. Even on that day where they were to travel back to America, the bus that was taking them to the airport mysteriously had a flat tire just 10 minutes to the airport, and they almost missed their flight. They had to charter a downfall bus that took them to the airport. And that is how Mr. Peter was rescued by his daughter from the claws of his wicked brothers and sister. But even there in America, the story was still far from over. You see, there are so many lessons and points that I would like us to derive from this story. As a lawyer, as a married person, as a former banker who had played in the financial sector for almost 10 years, there is so much I would like to tell us. So much that I would like us to be aware of, and so much that I would need us to learn from. In our next video, We will be delving into that. Don't miss it. But before we do, begin to share your thoughts, your comments, and your experiences down in the comment section. So guys, yes, we have come to the end of today's video. If you're new here, you're seeing me for the first time, or if you've been watching without subscribing, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, give this video a big thumbs up, drop all your comments down in the comment section, and stay glued, for we have so much more coming your way. It's me, your girl barrister Neze, and this is Nezeville. I'll see you guys in my next one. For now, bye.